If you're like me, you made your classroom your second home. You're going to be in there for a few hours per day, and one of those hours you're going to spend planning. So here are 3 things every teacher should have in their classroom. First thing I think every teacher should have in their classroom is a diffuser or some type of item that will make your classroom smell good. Now, I in particular invested in a diffuser, a scented oil diffuser, and it was one of the best investments that I made for my classroom. During the holiday seasons, I had like a peppermint scented oil, and my students just walking into my classroom in the morning and they would say comments like, "Oh my goodness, it smells so festive, it smells like home, it smells like Christmas," which was the vibe that I was going for. And there will be other times where I would just put a lavender scent and my students would just be in awe of how good my classroom smelled. Even with adults as well, you know those times when you have to get observed by your principal or your assistant principal or whoever is in charge of observing you. That would be the first impression for your classroom. When whoever walks in, they take from your classroom. My assistant principal would walk in and just be like, "Oh my goodness, it smells so amazing." First impressions says everything. I also loved it for myself because it kept me calm, it kept me level-headed, and it kept me feeling like, wow, it feels good in here, it smells good. This is my place, this is my home. So I would definitely highly recommend you invest in some type of scented object. And if you need some assistance with what you can get, I actually am going to link the scented diffuser that I use within my own classroom. The second thing that I think every teacher should have in their classroom is anchor charts and markers. That is a necessity. Now, I would say that my handwriting and my anchor chart designing skills are not up to par. Like, I never use anchor charts to just put up on my board or my wall and just have it for decoration. My anchor charts were actually one of my teaching tools. Even when I was in the classroom, we highly depended on the smart board, highly dependent on technology, computers, laptops. Technology was there. Now, technology was always unpredictable and unreliable. Now, there was sometimes and some days where the internet was just not where it needed to be. And I depended on my anchor chart paper as well as the students. I usually do my first teaching points using my anchor chart paper, and I would post it so my students can refer back to whatever teaching skill that I touched on for that day. And I remember during those times where the technology wasn't cooperating, my students knew where to go and look on the wall for that anchor chart that we talked about. There was, oh yes, that's where it is. And they would just go back to the wall and refer back to it because we collaborated and they actually put their 2 cents in there. I used to do like sticky notes because they love sticky notes and have them stick things on the anchor chart paper. But yeah, I always had anchor chart paper in my classroom, as well as those Mr. Sketch scented markers. If you need ideas on that as well, I linked it down below. And the third thing I think every teacher should have in their classroom is their own quiet or calm down area. Within my classroom, I always had different comfy areas where my students can go and read. Especially like my library, I invested in pillows, I invested in a beanbag and different little pads that students can sit on. They loved using all of my bears, pillows, and those comfy areas where they can just relax and read, because that's the environment that I wanted for my classroom, where my students just were comfortable in a space where they can just sit back, relax, and read. Have that for yourself as well. Now, that may look different for each teacher because each teacher is different. What I found to be very essential for my comfy, calm down area is definitely some snacks, some candy, some chocolate. My favorite is Crunch and Nerds. You know, because there's some days where I don't know why, but I just, a candy or chocolate bar just feels good in the moment. I also have my own little pillow where I can just sit back and sit down on as I'm planning during my planning period, because that just keeps me feeling like I'm in a safe space. I would highly, highly, highly recommend that you also have some type of scripture or quote as a reminder of your why you started teaching, why are you teaching, just something to remind you of your why and something that can remind you of your joy. For me, I used to have sticky notes around my computer, not just of things that I need to do, but also things that reminded me to either pray at a particular time of the day. I also have reminders on my phone as well, but I would say have those one or two things in your area, in your calm down corner area that will keep you together. And I'll link some of my items that I had below. Now I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments down below, what are some of the things that you think that every teacher should have in their classrooms, and what are some things that you have in your classroom? Do we have anything in common? Do you do something completely different? Let me know.